Now that we've talked about LEHR Soil Amplifier and what's in it, now we get to start digging into the really interesting stuff, which is the economics behind it, what it costs to produce it, how much value can be gained, and how that's going to really make potentially a big difference for a backyard farmer. Welcome to the LEHR Innovations channel. My name is Edmund Williams, and before I dig into the numbers, I want to start with a little bit of a disclaimer. It's September of 2025. The numbers that I have here that I'm using are my best information that I have right now. With markets being what they are, a lot of these numbers are going to shift. Even the harvest numbers potentially could go up. I don't expect them to go down, but I think as we find better ways of formulating the garden soil, then the yields could potentially go up. So this should give you a good magnitude of what we're talking about, but ideally these are actually pretty conservative numbers. So I want to start with talking about what's in a bag of LEHR Soil Amplifier. So I sell it by the gallon. Being a biological product, it's going to have variable moisture content, and that can actually affect the weight quite a lot. But if you dry it out completely, it comes out to be about 3.6 pounds. The closest product that I've been able to find is the compost that comes out of a Johnson Sioux bioreactor. And the compost that comes out of a Johnson Sioux is going to have a similar fungal to bacterial ratio. It's going to have some of those same components, but because it's not produced under the roots of living plants, it's not going to have those products of the root exudates. It's not going to have the glomalin, for example. So I think while we have probably everything that they've got, they don't have everything that we have. So it's still a pretty comparable product. So a couple years ago, I was able to find a company that's selling this online. I have not gone back and looked at it, but at the time they were selling an equivalent of 3.6 pounds, 3.5 pounds, give or take, for about $50. So there's kind of our benchmark there of what it's probably worth. So getting into our product here, our cost to produce, if you count in travel time, reset time, materials, sifting, bagging, all of that works out to be about $7 a gallon. So the comparing to the Johnson Sioux, but understanding that we don't have the wealth of lab results behind us that they've got, I'm saying we should probably start at about $30 a gallon. Now, a gallon of that is good enough for about 1,000 square feet. If we do have, in fact, the similar results to a Johnson Sioux, then that gallon is actually going to be good for about 1.5 acres. So it's something that can be spread pretty far. So I think that $30 a gallon is a pretty good value for what it is that we've got. Now, if we go to a retail establishment, if we're having a retail price of $30, that retail establishment is going to need to take their cut. That's going to vary per store, but at the high end they're going to take 50%, so that leaves us with $15 a bag. If we sell it online, and let's just say that we say free shipping $30, then that shipping, the cheapest I found so far, is about $18 a bag, which means we're coming back with about $12. So for the purpose of these calculations, those two numbers are pretty close. I'm just going to go ahead and say $15 a bag. So let's dig into the yield. So I've got two different bed sizes here. The 3x8, that's the one we put in for the Phoenix Backyard Garden Program, or the Garden PHX as they're calling it now. It's the one that's most typical when I sell for backyard gardeners. It's also the smallest one that I build. Then the other one here, I don't know, I think the glare's kind of covering this out a little bit, but it's a 4x24. That's the largest bed that we build, and I call that a farm bed. It's something that produces quite a bit. It's actually 4 times the size in terms of growing area of the backyard garden, the 3x8. Okay, so the cost of that 3x8 is about $3,000 to build that. The yield, every time we do a harvest, we're going to get about 25 gallons off of that. The value of that 25 gallons at $15 a gallon is $375. and the cost to reset that's about $200. So I want to be clear that the $200 to reset it actually includes profit. So if I just get that $200, then I'm actually profitable. So there's a little bit of extra room if like a pump goes out or a timer, something needs to be repaired. We need to be we need to spend a little bit of extra time. We've actually got a little bit of elbow room in there to make that happen. So that's something that we can't really go too much farther than that. Okay. So and for the record, this is us resetting a garden for free, which is enough of a benefit. I have yet to have a person come back to me and say, hey, I want my cut of whatever the value of that soil is. Just the fact that I can come to their space and do the one piece of labor that's difficult for them to do for free is pretty significant value for most backyard gardeners. Now, let's get into the farm bed. So this is a 4x24 bed. This is something that is 3 times as long and a foot wider than this. The cost to build that is actually only just a little bit over double the cost, because a lot of that cost ends up in the tank and the pump and the timers and all of those different pieces, whereas this really only has more lumber, it has more pond liner, and it has a tiny little bit more plumbing. And those don't add up as fast as you would think. There is quite a bit more work to do in it, and that's a lot of that piece there. So when we harvest that, we're getting about 100 gallons of finished compost out of the soil amplifier once we've sifted everything. So that works out to be about a $1,500 value at $15 per gallon. The reset cost, because it's a larger bed, it is a bit more. We're not really doubling the travel time, but everything else is quite a bit more. So that works out to be about $500 in time and materials to reset that. And again, that does count the profit, so I can be profitable at that $500. So now let's just say, for the sake of argument, that I'm not a robber baron. Okay, so I want to say that I am a capitalist, but I'm not a greedy capitalist. But I am also the type of capitalist who believes in reinvesting in our infrastructure, in our potential future output. Okay, so one of the things that we can do, one of the best marketing we can do. So let me go back to this again. So if I'm profitable, if I get $500 off of this, and then I'm getting $1,500 out of it, that's $1,000 of pure profit, which would be really nice. I think any business would love that, but I don't need that. I can still be profitable just at this $500. And so what we can do is we can say to that backyard farmer, hey, I'm going to give you back 50% of the value. Okay, so I'm going to give, if I split the value of what comes out of their garden 50-50, then I'm going to be taking $750 and giving them $750. Now, what does this do for me? Well, other than just sort of feel good kind of stuff, the big thing that it does is it helps me increase the number of people who are interested in buying into this program. If you know, hey, how did you get that new trinket that you bought? You're talking to your neighbor. Well, I got it off my soil check. I get a soil check every 8-9 months, something like that. So that's something that's going to say, oh, well, hey, I would love that. The other thing that's really nice about that giving back that piece is that if somebody's going to invest in a backyard garden, there's a certain amount of a risk involved. What if we get a heat wave and everything gets fried? What if we get a hailstorm and it just shreds all of my produce? What if I'm stuck in my learning curve those first 2 or 3 years and I'm not really producing a lot? The nice thing about the soil is that it isn't subject to that. If you get a hailstorm, it does not damage the soil. If you get a heat wave, as long as you keep the water flowing through, the soil is going to be fine. So it's going to keep making, as long as you don't turn the garden off and stop that water flowing, the soil is going to keep making itself, and it's going to keep getting better. And so we can get those harvests, and we can keep that money flowing. So it offers a stable, risk-free form of income for our backyard farmers, and lowering that risk is something that's going to allow more people to be interested in coming and trying out backyard farming. Okay, so let's say that we split it 50-50. They get $750. Now we're going to be wanting to reset those gardens about every 8-9 months. So let's just say that we're getting 1.5 harvests per year off of that. So just multiply by that, we get about $1,125 a year on average. Okay, so if you take that and compare it to the $6,500, it's a 6-year payoff to be able to get that completely paid off. And that is just in the value of the soil. That doesn't count the offset of your grocery bill. That doesn't count the value of any soil that you've sold, or produce that you've sold. It doesn't count any of those other benefits that would come along with it, just the soil. Okay, so now let's just say that we, as a company, want more people gardening. Now, if we're looking at the soil as a business, more gardeners is going to be our infrastructure. We're now moving from a business model where we're building gardens to a business model where we're producing soil. Now, we're still building the gardens, but the hard part is where do we get the funding? It's $6,500 is something that not everybody's going to be able to just pull out of their pocket and plop down. Now, there were USDA loans where people could get this, and that 6 years. The USDA loan actually has a pay down of 7 years. So just the soil should be able to pay it down in under the lifespan of the garden. But what if we took the profitability? I say, okay, I'm making my costs and my profit on this $500, but I'm gaining $750, and of course multiply that by the 1.5. It works out to be about $375 per year that I can take and put in a fund, and when that fund reaches maturity, then we can actually fund somebody's garden. We can pay for that to start help them build the garden, and then they take their half of the soil for those first 6 years or so, and they pay down the garden. So again, the risk is very low, the productivity is really high. But so let me just jump into a little bit more pie in the sky, but I don't think it's even that unreasonable. What if we can get the gardens at $45, the soil amplifier selling it for $45 a gallon? That's closer to this 50. It's still under that 50. But let's say that I'm still getting, let's talk about for the time being the online sales. Let's say that we can build online sales. I'm still getting that same $15-ish, $18, whatever, for the shipping costs. And so we can start kind of bringing these numbers in. Okay, so if $45 minus $15 of shipping, that means that we're taking in $30 per gallon of soil amplifier. So at 100 gallons, that's $3,000. We're getting $3,000 every time we reset a bed. And now I split that in half. We give our backyard farmer $1,500. That reset cost hasn't changed. That's still $500. So we've got $1,500 for us, $1,500 for them. That is $2,250 a year that they're going to be getting back. And so their actual payoff is going to be more like 3 years, where they're going to be able to pay down, again, just in the value of the soil, not even counting any of the produce. And then if I'm creating a fund, well, I'm putting about $1,500 a year in that fund to be able to help afford new gardens. So it's something where I think the soil has some pretty significant value, and it's something where it's definitely worth looking into. We're going to be talking a little bit more about some different angles on this, so stay tuned, subscribe, like, etc.